around 1970, a new infrastructure for the study of Polish-Jewish history gradually came into being. The new Encyclopedia Judaica appeared in 1972 with many articles on subjects related to the history of the Jews in Poland. Yad Vashem began publishing its Encyclopedia of Jewish Communities, LOCH. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, there was a flurry of reprints or translations of some classic works of historiography which were of great importance for this subject, such as Israel Zinberg's History of Jewish Literature and Shimon Dubnov's History of the Jews in Russia and Poland. Also reprinted or translated, for example, the memoirs of Vera Volokov, a collection of articles published by YIVO, Studies on Polish Jewry, edited by Joshua Fishman in 1974, provided extensive analyses of a number of essential topics such as anti-Semitism, economic history, assimilation, social welfare, youth movements, and political literature. It also contained a collection of documents. Celia Heller's On the Edge of Destruction, while rather controversial, was the first serious, full-length monographic treatment comprising old knowledge, developing the relatively new theme of assimilation, and clearly expressing the, by then, conventional view of Jewish existence in interwar Poland was impressive cultural creativity in the face of official discrimination and unofficial hatred. Lucien Dobrzycki and Barbara published Image Before My Eyes, a photographic history of Jewish life in Poland, which presented a more very realistic and representative view of Polish Jewry than had Wiśniak's 1947 Polish Jewry. Survivors and immigrants, Polish Jewry of the interwar and Shoah periods. With some notable exceptions, most of their studies are heavily dependent on archival and quantifiable material. They have significantly furthered the process of articulating a broad new view of Polish Jewry. In Polish history, they are now considered to be an essential element in the narrative of multi-ethnic Poland's historical development. The studies of contemporary Polish scholars explain the Jewish experience as part and parcel of the larger Polish one. The Polish Jewish historiography have forged a new master narrative and a new historiographical agenda. State institutions and the Jews. The long overlooked subject of the various churches and the Jews, and Christians. There's also a refreshing new interest in the history under the rubric of Russian Jewish history, nation of the past. Some of the institutions of Jewish autonomy have come to be seen than previously thought. What would be useful now is more study of the parallels and points of articulation between Jewish and Polish institutions, unavoidable conditions. The younger Sabras and Westerners, whom I mentioned before, many of them committed to a religious outlook, include more sectors of Jewish society in the story. With regard to anti-Semitism, their own experience with pluralist and minority political right and assimilationists. There has also been a turn away from politics towards social life, economics, culture, and religion. In particular, we should probably expect more studies about the weakening of Jewish cultural institutions. To my mind, it would be desirable to pay more attention to the unaffiliated, non-ideological, moderately traditionalist Jews.
My book entitled Scepter of Judah, Jewish Autonomy in the 18th Century Crown Poland, which was based on an analysis of the assessment lists of the Jewish poll tax in 1717-1764 in Crown Poland. I apprehended what I call rotation schedule of increase of taxation burden in some communities and simultaneous reduction of this burden in other communities. Since during the discussed period the Jewish poll tax for Crown Poland was fixed at a permanent sum of 220,000 zlotys, which was about twice lower than the real Jewish population of the country, the Council of Four Lands and the regional councils have relatively broad freedom of choice to assign the taxation burden to various communities in rotation, which is in fact a sum paid by Orly in 1734 and 1733 and 1734, of the above holy community on behalf of the Council of Four Lands or to Warsaw, etc. but the holy community of Roli shall be exempted from payment of even 1 grosz pruta during the validity of this assessment and of court. In an agreement between the community of Boczki and major community of Tykocin, had to pay in the following year 1,350 zlotys as a poll tax, asked and received a reduction of 200 zlotys as a compensation for the loss of income from rural town Szeń, which was attached to another community. According to the assessment list, this reduction was implemented only in 1737, when the community of Orly paid indeed 1,050 zlotys as a poll tax, exactly 200 zlotys less than the original assessment. If you can please show my first table. I can't see it, but I hope it's the right one. This case shows, among other things, that the villages in the rural periphery of the Jewish urban communities were indeed transferred from one community to another because of poll tax considerations. The last reduction obviously corresponds to the reduction of repair of the synagogue agreed upon in 1756. But contrary to agreement, this reduction was valid for 1 year only. The reference to other expenses of the Jewish communities mentioned in our first example is significant, since they could be used for coverage of poll tax and vice versa. As Adam Kazimierz remarked in his review of my book, in 1744, the Regional Council of Ordynacja Zamojska in Poland agreed that the Council of Ordynacja Zamojska will pay a debt of Poland to Father Maciej Pawłowicz, the Dean of Zamość, in a sum of 8,000 zlotys, and the Council of Poland, in return, will pay the poll tax of Ordynacja Zamojska. I am very grateful to Adam for this wonderful example, which shows clearly the direct connection between the assessment list and the sporadic documents. According to the assessment list, the poll tax of Ordynacja Zamojska was indeed reduced in 1744 from 9,640 zlotys to 920 zlotys, permanently or temporarily. The community of Lublin, for example, was to provide overall picture of continuous. These reasons are surely indicated in numerous other documents. These are, first of all, the major collection of Hebrew documents, St.